In a world, a global pandemic isolates millions in their homes. Doctors and nurses without the gear they need. An industry bands together to spread hope and help. Cosplayers assemble. Voiceover artists. Show creators. Talent agents. Casting directors. And producers. Join all of us this weekend. A free live streaming event for a great cause to get doctors and nurses the personal protection equipment they need. Follow and watch on twitch.tv/kidsvo. For more information, go to isocon.com. ISOCON. We'll see you at home.
All right.
We're back with the last panel of the day. It's our favorite show creators and writers on the animation panel. Creators of Phineas and Ferb and the movie coming soon, Candace Against the Universe, Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh. Many know him from his work on the Book of Life and El Tigre, Jorge Gutierrez. If you love Hoodwink, you'll love the creator, Cory Edwards. The dynamic duo who brought you Lego Star Wars, The Freemaker Adventures, Bill Motz and Bob Rock. He's written for Recess, Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and Mickey Mouse Mix-Up Adventures. It's one of our favorite guys, Mark Drop. This young gentleman has written and created some of our favorite shows, Young Justice, The Spectacular Spider-Man, and Max Steel. Greg Weisman. Creators of Kim Possible and Big Hero 6, the series, Mark McCorkle and Bob Schooley. Former board artist for Phineas and Ferb, as well as supervising director of Amphibious first season. The creative manager of Netflix Animation, Kim Robertson. And your moderator for the evening, Gary Mariano. And your producer of ISOCON, Tony, will be monitoring your chat.
All right.
Stop the music. I was just starting to groove.
All right.
We're going to continue it later. We'll have a dance.
Okay, good. That's for the after party.
All right. You guys are in the late night after party.
Excellent.
Glow sticks.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you guys all for joining us for such a great cause to help raise PPE, donations for PPE for the doctors and nurses that need the materials and need that protection when they're working with everybody that's sick with COVID-19. So thank you.
Excellent.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, guys.
Gave me a reason to put on clothes.
Speaking of which, Gary and I have been asking the panels how you guys have been dealing, how you guys transitioned into this new world as far as the cyber world of after this all went down, and what has life been like for you guys?
Well, we're just watching screens all day, which is basically what we were doing anyway. But now we get interrupted by our kids who want stuff all the time.
Yeah. And animators pretty amazing alone in dark rooms in their basement for years, so there wasn't that much of a change. It just means we don't get the face-to-face occasional meetings, which is sad, but we're figuring it out on Zoom.
I think the technology's been pretty amazing. That at Disney TVA, the tech team really stepped up. That we've been doing scoring sessions and mixes all from our dining room.
Yeah. The biggest change for us is just no voice recordings.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, that is tough.
Scratch recordings with my family. Entire episodes.
Well, that's fun.
Leave it in.
It's been fun. It's been fun, but
just Taft-Hartley them, and you'll have a whole other revenue stream.
A little
little bummed that my kids have more Zoom meetings than I do. So,
Yes.
So are all of sorry, Kim.
challenges is coming up with jokes in animatic, because you're used to sitting with a bunch of people in a room, watching the animatic and punching it up, and it's been very difficult for the people that are in that phase in the series that we're working on in that part.
It's easier now. I only have to wonder if I laughed, and if I laughed much in, and I realized the genius of the joke. But it is hard because it used to be the room. You're right. And now there's no temperature. You just sit there thinking, I don't know, was that actually funny?
Yeah.
Or have I been in a dark room for way too long?
You're not like Teams or Zooming your animatics with the normal people you do it with?
We are.
Yeah.
We are using Sync Sketch, which is a pretty amazing program, and you have a Zoom meeting running parallel or FaceTime. It's all technology's made. Yeah, technology's made this all something you can overcome. Yeah. You know, our last show, Freemaker Adventures, our entire crew was in Denmark. So Bill and I were really used to remote controlling a crew through technology on that show.
So this feels sort of
So now you're
like
just
second nature to us.
But you're doing the same thing. You just don't have a commute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the only difference between this and our last show is now Bill and I aren't in the same room, but
the monthly
FaceTime overcomes that.
Birthday party thing, you guys only have two. Like I miss being with the crew and like getting together, you know, for breakfast.
Now all the cake is yours, man. Just buy the cake.
Our crew had a happy hour last night, which was nice.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was good to see, cool. 49 little postage stamps of people going, I'm having a fine time. I'm okay. I'm safe.
Is it, I mean, the old necessity is the mother of invention. So we've got Zoom, we've got these other ways. Is there anything else that surprised you that's helped move this along? And what's the most difficult thing? I mean, is it just more time for everything?
I think for me, part of the biggest challenge is trying to be funny when there's sort of this constant background noise of the pandemic and running through your mind. So trying to sort of focus on the mission, as it were, of entertaining kids, and when you sort of are feeling worried is a little
might be a better time to work in the horror industry.
Yeah.
In fairness, we're not funny most
stopped
days.
trying to ententain people years ago. So
you're ahead of the curve. Well done.
My dining room chair is so bad for my back compared to my nice chair in my office.
That's the air on chair.
I left a beautiful stand-up desk at Disney, and it's like, I'm 9 feet tall. You can't tell that from here, but I spend most of my time at work standing at a desk. I look like a night court judge when people come in my office. Here at home, I'm crunched into this tiny antique desk, and it's killing me.
I was gonna get a stand-up desk for this for my home office, and I was like, oh, it's just gonna be such a pain in the butt to try to move the big desk out and move the and I just kept putting it off, and now I'm just like, why didn't I do this when I had the chance? Because I'm so much more comfortable standing half the time.
Yeah, I'd stolen a really stupid little plastic chair from my son that he used in high school music room, and I'd been on it for like 2 weeks having back pains, and my wife walks in the other day and says, why are you sitting in that chair? We have a great office chair downstairs with lumbar support. And it's like, it was just easy. I feel like an idiot. She brought the other chair up, and I'm much more comfortable, but you're just sort of rolling along thinking, it's fine. I'll be fine.
You were just waiting so that she would pull it up the stairs.
You didn't want to admit that this was actually like how it's going to be now. I mean, I get it. You're trying to deny the whole thing's happening. It's just a temporary. It's all temporary. That's the way.
We were in a.
Some show crews will be rapping this way. They'll never get back to the office and be able to say goodbye to each other, which is really hard.
Our independent production out at Surfer Jack, all of our Pete the Cat people are rolling off, and it's the most unceremonious roll off ever. It's like somebody, there's now these really, in one way they're sweet because we have them saved. There's these wonderful goodbye emails saying, had a great time. Thank you very much. I'm going to miss you all. And instead of saying at a little party, you have the email to save. That's really nice, but you miss that interaction of getting that moment. It is weird. And
we shipped our first episode on the Curse of Molly McGee, and that's always a big moment for the crew. And it was just sort of like an email went out. Congratulations,
Yes.
we did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Thumb.
Are you? It's funny, Mark. We were in a meeting the other day, a Zoom meeting, and somebody said, "I got my stand-up desk set up," and they panned the camera around, and it was an ironing board.
Whatever works.
Hey, we have one of those.
Are you guys able to start new projects right now? I mean, are you actively pitching? What does that look like?
I'm working on a pilot right now that I did the first pass on the boards before all this happened, and I've been editing it on Storyboard Pro, and they're going out to casting and stuff like that. And I'm gonna have to start listening to stuff here, and I don't know how that's all gonna happen, but that's where I am.
Theoretically sold a couple of shows that are still moving forward. It's just now at a snail's pace because it's in the hand of kind of the legal executive side, and it's just the wheels are turning much slower. So we're kind of standing here going, any moment, we're all ready. Let us know. Good to go.
Yeah, we're developing too right now while we finish Big Hero 6, and it's a little slow. Slow process.
I have a question, guys, from the stream chat. The biggest question they keep repeating and saying up on the stream is, what advice to someone who wants to write and produce animation do you have?
Well, the good thing is now people can make that on their own, at home and put it on the internet and actually get an audience. Draw, write, and do all the stuff that you want to do later on, and just don't wait for somebody to tell you it's okay. It's okay to do it. A lot of shows came out of people doing stuff just for the internet. Rick and Morty was Doc and Marty when Justin put it out on YouTube, and it's that's the great thing about this technology is anybody can animate now. It used to be you had to go and get a Super 8 camera or something, and now everybody can do it on their phone.
3/4 of the audience have no idea what the word Super 8 is.
I know. Yes, I think you're being generous there. That was a 1% joke, I think. Yeah.
Well, the thing I always get, and I'm sure all of you guys on this grid of people in front of me have tons of people, because of the position you're in, who say, hey, I've got this show, I've got a really great idea. And either they have a sentence, or it's just verbal, or they have a picture. The thing that I always look for when I talk to somebody like that is say, look, you have to take it to the next level. You have to do the next thing, whatever that is. And that kind of is where you lose 99% of the folks. They don't have whatever it takes to do the next step. But occasionally, 1% of these folks do, and they listen to you, and they spend their time doing this stuff. Well, now everybody out there has got a little time on their hands.
That's right.
And if you have these ideas, you need to get the stuff down on paper that everybody tells you should do, your springboards, your character development. And I was watching a great documentary about the ending of the show Schitt's Creek that talked about how much work they did at the beginning on the characters. Because this was the guys who came out of Christopher Guest's improv films. And by the time they started that show, they knew everything about their characters, backwards and forwards, their history. And I always thought it was one of the things that Phineas and Ferb benefited by not getting on the air for so
from
long.
not selling it for 13 years.
He knew everything about the
I'm
character.
glad there was something good coming out of that.
Well, it was by the time somebody came to ask us a question about the characters, Dan and I both knew the characters and all of our answers were the same. But this is the time, if you guys have shows out there and you're trying to develop them, do that work. Write it down. Get this stuff on paper. do all the examination stuff that you may not have thought you had time for. You do that work. And by the time you show it to somebody, it will feel more full, more thought out. You'll be able to answer the questions effectively, and it'll give you a much better chance of somebody giving you the opportunity to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I would jump off what Swampy's saying and say, don't wait till somebody's interested to then put together all your bios and your episode titles, and your opportunity will come, and then you need to be ready. So, but I love what you said about that.
I saw a thread on Twitter the other night about writers, and with somebody third year college saying, what do I need to do to get myself prepared to be a writer? And I leapt in with, you need to have your scripts ready before you move out here. I've run into so many prospective writers who have made the big leap to move out here. And when you ask, do you have a spec script I can read? They're like, oh, I've got 3 of them, but none of them are ready yet. It's like, well, you just lost an opportunity. You need to be ready.
Have it ready.
You need to have that stack of scripts ready to go when you before you unpack your apartment. You need to be ready to go.
Yeah. Where do you guys draw your inspiration from?
I steal it from. Couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
Just all around us, I think everybody gets it from their family and from the people in their lives, and just things that pop into your head while you're doodling. Phineas and Ferb started because I was thinking of head shapes, and I had never seen anybody draw a triangle. So a character with a triangle, and so I drew a triangle and put an eye up there, and suddenly it was like, oh, and then that character looked a certain way, so he became something in my brain, and it's sort of just all around us, the things that we see and hear and see people act a certain way. Oh, I got to put a character like that person that I see in the grocery store into a show at some point.
We definitely burn our own life down to do this. I had this crazy experience. Everybody here knows Evan Gore, and he was doing George of the Jungle, and he asked me, would you do one? And in my spare time. Oh, okay, this was a while back. So I banged out a George of the Jungle, and I forgot about it. And a year later, he emailed me and said, hey, drop that George of the Jungle is going to be on Saturday morning. Oh, they do that still? I didn't know. So my kid happened to be home. He was a little kid then, and my wife, and there's cereal bowls and coffee and a TV on with a cartoon I wrote, and we watch it. It's fine. It's good. And it ends, and my wife goes, oh my God. I was like, what? She's like, that joke at the top is what you say when you come home late. And that third joke in there was what we always say at the breakfast table. And it was like, I was using my family's life to make a George in the Jungle cartoon. And it was like everything that I live becomes what I'm working on.
You got them in for a percentage, right? You did the right thing.
Have we all based
That's why she was really pissed that I wasn't splitting the money.
Have we all based a villain on somebody that we really, really don't like?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, strangely, Doofenshmirtz is based on me, so yes.
I don't know what that says about me.
My sister told me, and I didn't even realize this, that my sister told me that when I do Doofenshmirtz, that's the voice I used to do when we were kids and we were playing Imagine games. Whenever I was the villain, that's the voice I would use. So to her, it just sounds like me to her.
That's right.
I found myself basically whatever childhood traumas I've had, I try to go into them and sort of, get a studio to spend $20 million for therapy. So I think like growing up screwed up, that's the reward you get. You get to make cartoons.
Yes.
Well,
that's why we're all here, frankly.
A lot of
we're all working out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, childhood's still fresh.
A lot of stories about bullies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who is doing the typing?
Dan and
I was typing a little bit, guys. I was
that he
responding to
was
somebody
on for another show that became Milo, and that was just from a character, and then Milo really was exactly what you were saying, Jorge. It's it was a way of making a philosophy out of how I dealt with a lot of dysfunctional childhood. but how you make that
Say
a
hi to everybody.
Special
Aw.
As a Muppet.
Wait, is that
guest.
Alf? Like Alf to me.
I had taken my glasses off, and for a moment, I thought you had an orangutan.
I love how the first week from work from home, everyone was trying to hide their kids and pets, and now everyone's
Bring 'em
letting
in.
them in.
That's added value.
Come on in. What the
Come on
heck?
in.
Please break up the monotony.
Typing around cats is hard, though. I
Yeah,
think.
it is hard.
The cat just plops there on the keyboard, and you have to sort of shove.
We have a question, guys, from the twins, Abby and Tate, in I think it's in Texas. Hey Tony, it's Abby and Tate. When an audition is listened to, what catches the showrunner's attention? Is it a certain voice they're looking for? Or is it based on performance?
When we were doing Kim Possible, we could not find anyone to play Ron, and we wrote audition sides with jokes that we knew had to be delivered a very particular way, and nobody could do it. And it wasn't until Will Friedle came in and actually made us laugh.
Yeah.
And we were like, that's it. Because we when we do audition sides, we purposely put in stuff to sort of see if the actor could kind of get
And pull it off.
what we're doing. Because 9 times out of 10 they go with something really predictable and not funny.
But I think too, you have to be open to some surprises. I mean, we've certainly had people come in that take a line and do something completely unexpected with it, and it's like, wow, that's what that role needs. You know, it needs.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if that's not,
in the auditions.
and even if that's not what you use for that, you'll remember that person more than you'll remember somebody else.
Yeah, for sure.
When we were casting Phineas, it took us forever to find Phineas, and we actually cast 2 different actors and recorded them all the way through and felt like, oh no, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. This voice doesn't work for this. And it was at the last moment that we got Vincent. Somebody played me, and I was like, ooh, maybe let's have him do it. And we were actually recording 2 people at the same time. We recorded Charlie Schlatter, who ended up being Kick Buttowski.
Right.
But and we were going to do Vincent on the next day. And I remember Charlie Adler was directing, and we were like 3 lines into Vincent doing it. And he just turned around and went, "Oh, poor Charlie just lost this gig, didn't he?" And then we were like, because we were actually pretty happy with Charlie's performance. And then I said, "Yeah, he did," because suddenly it just locks. And sometimes it's the sound of the voice, the attitude of the character, and sometimes it's, "Oh, wow, this guy really gave me something I wasn't looking for at all, but it's really funny."
I will say too.
We had for El Tigre, we couldn't find. We had a Mexican dad, Rodolfo Rivera, and I was super excited because I thought, oh, LA, we're gonna find all these amazing Mexican American actors, and either they sounded super manly and couldn't act, or they were really good actors but didn't have the, cojones for this stuff. And so it ended up being Eric Bauza, this little Filipino Canadian guy. And I remember telling him, like, it's like Montalban and Antonio Banderas got drunk and went to Mexico and had a baby. That's who this guy is.
It ends up being Eric Bauza.
He's truly amazing.
I have cast Scottish guys using Carlos Alazraqui.
Right.
Because he embodies what that is. When you hear him do it, he's got everything about it. And yet
he's not Scottish even a little.
South American descent from San Francisco.
Yes.
But I will say, I will reveal that is, one of the dark secrets of being a showrunner is you do have that luxury with casting. Like, we brought in Ricardo Montalban to do a role because we just wanted to meet Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, exactly.
Turned us down.
Of course, he's brilliant. He was brilliant and he was great for the role.
But he was fantastic.
But he was fantastic. Or you like a big
Ricardo Montalban carried my mother up the steps of Santa Monica Hospital when she was pregnant with my brother.
Really?
Oh, yes, that's a true story.
Got out of a cab, passed out, hit the floor. The guy who scooped her up and carried her up the steps is Ricardo Montalban.
It's a good story.
Full of amazing stories.
Oh, great.
He was great. Well, and on Big Hero, working with Stan Lee and meeting Stan Lee.
Oh yeah.
That's
really cool.
Once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking when you find a character when you find an actor that has the perfect tone, like exactly what you want. And you're like, yes, we found the person. And then you bring them into the booth and they can't act.
Yes.
That happens.
And voice acting is different than live action.
Different.
We brought in some actors who are excellent at live action.
And cannot do it.
And there's just no magic in the
It's a
booth.
different animal.
They come across a little flat. Is that what it is?
On Gargoyles, we had no clue what a gargoyle was supposed to sound like at all. And so we auditioned all sorts of people trying all sorts of different things. And finally we found two guys, Tom Adcox and Bill Fagerbaki, and they both had this rasp to their voice, but Tom's voice is, relatively high pitched and Bill's is way down there. And so they played two of the three sort of teenage gargoyles. And then we just said to Jeff Bennett, find the guy in the middle.
He can do it.
He was
Jeff is the best.
So
Jeff is
Bill
the secret
basically
weapon.
just doing Bill's voice. Tom is just doing Tom's voice, and Jeff found the guy in the middle.
Wow.
They took us.
Great thing
took us
about
forever.
using these the go-to voice actor guys is you can literally say something like that. Like, I need you to be in between these two guys. I need you to be the Russian version of that woman.
Right.
And they can do stuff like that. And
There are times we've cast authentically where, like, way back on the Tarzan show we did ages ago, we cast a genuine Russian actor to play a Russian villain. We got him in the booth and we're like, this is gonna be great. It's gonna sound authentic. It's not gonna sound like Boris Badenoff. And at 100%, when we got the tracks back, it's like, that's just Boris Badenoff. That's terrible. That's Ron Perlman.
New appreciation for Boris Badenoff.
So we cast Ron Perlman. He knocked it out of the park. There was just enough Russian accent to have some layer of authenticity, but it was so much better than the actual Russian actor.
Yes. Because the actual Russian actor can probably only do that amount of Russian accent.
That's right.
And Ron, you can pull him back.
Ron.
You can,
We have a
when
question.
we first were auditioning for Phineas, we had Allison Stoner was like the second girl who read for Isabella, and the moment she said those lines, I knew it was going to be her. But we still had like 50 people that day that we had to listen to. And I was like, well, maybe somebody will beat that, but I can't imagine it sounding more perfect in my head.
That's what happened with us for Marina Sirtis and Damona. She came in, first person to read, first person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But, we had like 20 or 30 others to listen to.
Yeah, you get so tired of smiling at them and going, that was great. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, go this way. We had a question on Twitter from Dirk asking Mark and Bob about Hercules, that we had 100 and so many guest stars. Was there anybody you didn't get that you wanted to guest star? And then the rest of you, is there somebody you guys wanted as well for your series that didn't land? Or
The weird thing with Hercules is I think we got everybody.
Yeah, I don't think.
We had stuff like, we're going to do this Griffin. Can we get Merv Griffin to do it? And he did.
Merv Griffin came in.
We had half the cast of Friends when Friends was on the air. It was weird. It was like something, I think, ironically, once James Woods signed on, everyone was willing to do it. It was a very, unfortunately, we were so busy on that, we didn't really get to go to a lot of the recordings, but it was quite the cast on that show. Yeah,
we were there. Thanks, guys.
I've had Salma Hayek turn me down on every project.
Really? Take it personally now.
Yeah. Don't worry, Jorge. She's turned me down several times.
Turned a lot of people down, Jorge.
When you guys
to get Patrick Stewart to play King Arthur on Gargoyles.
When you guys hear somebody and maybe they're not right for this part, do you remember them for other parts that come along?
Yeah, I think that happens a lot.
All the time.
For sure.
Oh yeah, we had
not quite right.
Mark Hamill did a great weird read for this teacher in Milo Murphy, and we both went like, that's not at all what we want for that. But I like that for like a character that we know was coming down the pike. So when we had that character in, we just called him and said, we're going to play you the audition you did for this character, and we want you to do that voice for this character.
Yeah, we had that on Big Hero 6. Lucas Neff auditioned for something, and he wasn't right for that. But we loved his voice so much that we wrote a character for him, basically, Noodleburger Boy, and he's great. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I keep trying to cast Helen Mirren in something.
One day. We got almost everybody we ever wanted, and then some in Phineas. We'd have people contact us to you know.
Didn't like Tina Fey contact you guys?
Yeah, and Christian Slater and Ben Stiller. You know, there were a bunch of people who just like were fans of the show, and we're like, oh yeah, okay, let's write something for them. Yeah.
Swampy will tell you that I was working with Anthony LaPaglia, and in the middle of the recording session, in the middle of the EPK interview, he said, "Hey, do you know the guys from Phineas and Ferb? Because I'd really like to be on that show." It's like,
really?
Can you finish working on this first before you take a Disney game?
To get through this thing here before.
We never heard from him. Like that's so funny. I don't think did we have Anthony LaPaglia?
No, we talked about him. There was a role we were telling. I don't remember what happened, but yeah, there was a moment of contact.
Oh, I didn't even remember.
But I used to get weird calls from, I've got a friend who's a manager for big talent who would call and say, yeah, I've got so-and-so wants to do a voice. That's how we heard about some strange people. We ended up with Peter Fonda.
Yeah.
Wow.
She called and said, Peter would like to do something. We're like, yeah, okay, sure.
Wow. Yeah, exactly.
That would be awesome.
He was really cool.
Can I ask the room, I know there are a lot of celebrity voices you guys work with. Is there like a quirky one that nobody else cares about, but you, like I got to record with Reese Darby, and that's been on my list for like
yeah, we had
years.
Reese on one.
Yeah, I just did him.
You have a little one like that?
And he's brilliant.
We got Paul Rubens on Star Wars Rebels to play the robot that he used to play in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. It's good.
And that was a huge deal for me.
Were you like Pee Wee Herman? Pee Wee Herman.
For us, we had the first, as far as IMDb can tell us, we had the first show that had Tim Curry, Richard O'Brien, and who's the
Barry Bostwick.
Barry Bostwick. Like those three from the Rocky Horror Picture Show in the same episode of TV, and that was really cool for us.
I just loved casting Richard O'Brien for the dad
on a Disney show.
And I still remember, I don't know if we should but we were in a meeting where we'd got it down to 3 voices, and we were there with all the executives. We listened to them, and somebody at the other end of the table said, well, which one do you guys like? We said, well, we've always preferred Richard O'Brien. The guy went, what's he been in? And I said, well, he was in a game show in the UK called
He was in Flash Gordon.
And as I was going, he went, yeah, okay, that's fine. And I love it. One of the other executives at the end of the table, as we were leaving, walked over and went, Crystal Maze, really? That's the one that you brought up? Sure. But yeah, I just didn't think I'd lead with Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
So
I remember they asked me like, who's your dream person you want to get? And I was really into getting people who had never done it. So I was like, I want to get Ice Cube to do a cartoon voice. And everybody at Fox was like, he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. Casting person tells me he will never take this. For some reason, he took the meeting. He shows up and he looks super pissed. And the manager's like, he is not going to do this. So he sits down in a dark theater wearing sunglasses. I pitch him and I'm like, I finish pitching him the character and I tell him, and if you love the children of Mexico, you will do this movie for them.
Oh,
man. And he scowls at me and he goes, that's good. I'll do it. And
the best voice in the movie. The best voice.
Casting. I love getting musical people. For Pete the Cat, we got Elvis Costello and Diana Krall to come do it because they were fans of the Pete the Cat book, and they came in and did Mom and Dad for the first season, but it was great because it was a very, very musical show, and so we didn't have any worries about them getting it. And I really realized.
And that's how I got this guitar signed by Elvis Costello.
Oh,
that's so bad.
Wow.
Why is my face on?
You're giving Schooly ideas right now.
No, we actually tried to get Elvis for one thing. We ended up with David Cassidy instead.
Those are about equal.
Yeah.
I think.
One of the things I found out from me about casting musical people is it's a lot easier for me in the booth to get them to get the read, because you can reduce it down to rhythm and meter and pitch. And if you give them something, they kind of get it, and it makes that part of the job easier. So we had like Dave Matthews on that show, KT Tunstall, Jason Mraz came and did a role. Don Was from Was Not Was, the music producer, is doing our narrator.
Oh,
and they can reduce all that stuff to a musical feel, and so it's really easy. Plus, the bonus is when we write a really complicated song, they just go, "Yeah, fine, sure."
You guys have three groups of creators. Well, creative is such a personal thing. You've got three groups of teams here and a bunch of individuals. How does it work out with you guys? Who covers what? How do you balance?
Dan does the really hard work. I tend to sit around a lot and take half credit. That's how it works still, right, Dan?
Yeah, it was that way in our contract. I don't know who wrote that up. I should probably get a better lawyer.
I have a great lawyer.
We have a question for Kim, guys. What? We have a question for Kim. What are the challenges?
And hear Schooly McCorkle or Motz and Roth answer that.
Oh, sorry.
I'll
I'll come. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I used to work with my wife, and then we found out it was either working together or marriage. And we picked marriage, and now I get inspiration from her. She still works on everything I do, but it was too stressful. It was too. At Nickelodeon we had offices at opposite ends of the floor. It was too much. And you know, we're hot-blooded Latino, so every night ended with a knife fight. Like it was not. I don't know. I'm sure it's easier for white people, but it was
everything's easier for white people.
Here at the Drop household. Don't worry about it.
Bill and I, we've often talked about, like, you know, we spend more time with each other than we do with our own wives. It's the nature of the business.
Yeah, but
not anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, one of the advantages of having a creative partner is that you have at least one other person in the world who thought that was a good idea when you presented it.
Really? Usually it's the opposite.
We're really creatively on the same page. The nice thing is that you can divide your time, you can be in a lot more places, and you have full confidence that the other person is going to make a decision that the vast majority of the times you will completely support.
Yeah.
Whenever
we were giving notes,
if I'm out of the room, that Dan's going to make a decision that I would object to.
Yeah.
And so you can go off and do other stuff and be productive. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
We also find that it's good to have somebody who's just when one of us is down, the other one is up, and it's not consistent who that is.
Usually,
but, you know, there's one of us going, "This is it. We're done. We've messed up our career. We're finished." And the other one's going, "Nah, it's gonna be fine."
Sooner or later, you're right on that, though. So
well, sooner or later, but far not good.
Anyway, there's a question for Kim.
Yeah, Tony. What's
sorry. Somebody was talking about the challenges and complexity when storyboarding. Can you kind of get into
challenges and complexities? It's tough. I mean, I've been very fortunate, and then I got to work on Phineas and Ferb, where it's a board-driven show, and we got to write as well as draw, which was what I loved to do. I was also on Camp Laszlo. We did that, and gosh, I guess it's like the challenges are like, how do you make it interesting and funny and drawn well and done on time? It's a lot. It's a lot. These guys can answer that better, but yeah, I think I definitely was glad to move more into directing, because then I could have people that actually drew better than me do the actual boarding, and then I could take it and punch it up. But I think, honestly, I really think storyboarding is the hardest job in our industry. Hands down.
Do any of you guys
you need to be good at a lot of things.
Do you guys all do your own storyboarding at all? Do you guys at this level now? Do you guys still do all your own storyboarding?
I still do, but just because I'm compulsive and can't stop myself from doing it.
I can't draw to save my life, so
we don't.
I feel like it's gotten a lot more complicated since Storyboard Pro. Like,
oh yeah, because now they expect more from you know, you're sort of a storyboard artist and an editor.
Now all I'm doing is scribbling on top of other people's work and telling them where they're wrong. Sadly, because I can't, operate software as good as they can, so I just bad.
Yeah. Well, I think at a certain point, there's a trade-off where you have to go, okay, I know exactly how I want this to go, and I'm a faster artist than than they are. I can finish it, and I won't have to change any of it, or I can give it to them. They'll go away for a couple days. They'll come back. I'll have to change it. They'll go away. Like at a certain point, I start doing this and going, I'm just going to draw. I'm just going to draw. So,
but I do think the animatics have gotten so ambitious and complicated that the appetite keeps growing.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, you'll be in a meeting where executives are like, we get it. You don't need to do all the sound effects and temp score and this and that.
Animated.
But sometimes when you don't do that, they're like, oh, that scene played a little dead. Well, with temp score, it wouldn't have, So
exactly.
I think we're in this sort of escalating where we become our own worst enemy sometimes, I think.
I'm seeing young people like
people.
mid-20s getting carpal tunnel and stuff now from
wow.
it, which we didn't get that till we were older. So it's
So I think there definitely needs to be
what I really miss is getting all the storyboard panels up on a wall in a room.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I still do. There was something great about being able to see it all visually in one big glance and take it in. You could literally look and see how big a section was physically. You could see if there were too many medium shots. It was, to me, it was much more of an effective way to view the storyboard work. And I'm missing that a lot. And we've had a lot of conversations about trying to bring it back in some form. That was a great thing.
It's all the schedule, I mean, it's as they don't expand schedules. So you almost have to let that go to get the animatic faster.
Yeah. I mean, we should all stand up and fight the power.
Well, and I think too, it's one of those things as we cross-pollinate more with feature folks. It's one of those things. Features have a lot more time to do what they do, and yet you see a lot of TV shows now where the execution level is amazing. I don't know. I'm watching shows that just blow me away that other people are doing in TV.
Yeah, and you're always like, what is their budget?
Yeah,
that's what I'm always like. Like, what's their schedule and what's their budget? How is this occurring?
That's the joy of working on a Mickey project, is that there's not, I mean, I know people get grief about the budget and I know people screw down on it and stuff, but it always excels anything we ever dreamed of on the script page. It always is plussed and leveled up and more cinematic and flawless, so I think that I agree. The storyboard people today are they're heroic, and they have a lot. I mean, it hurts my brain to think about sitting down. Okay, I'm gonna, it's pure cinema. It's just you have to be a director and you have to have hilarious amount of comedy chops. It's just a giant job, and I want to do it. I really admire people that do it.
I got a question from the internet for Bill and Bob and a follow-up question. Bill and Bob, what was the pitch like for Xiaolin Showdown? And then for all of you, what was the easiest pitch you guys have ever made to sell a series?
10 more minutes.
The pitch for Xiaolin Showdown was a nightmare. It was the worst pitch we ever gave in our lives. We were handed material. They had a pilot that was not at all really representative of what the show wound up being. And Bill and I went to the meeting with our take on what we would do with the show. And as we were sitting there, we were sitting next to the conference room, and it sounded like a bachelor party was going on inside. There was just peals of laughter. And I listened and I was like, oh, hell, I'm hearing some of the character names we're here to talk about. Somebody was in there killing it. And it was like 5:30 on a Tuesday too. So the door opened. They actually hugged this guy and said, "That was so great." And then they turned and looked at us and went, "Oh, you guys."
This is completely
so we went in, gave the worst pitch of our lives because we could tell we had messed it up. But like there was no, we were too late. They'd already decided on. It was like when
the exec that we're pitching to, it somehow went from a bright room when we walked in to just dim and dark. And the executive we're pitching to the whole time is looking at us like this. And then he says at the end, that was very thorough. I have no notes. And we're like, oh no. You want to be a lot of things in this business, but not thorough.
Man.
That's not what you want to leave with in a pitch.
That's hilarious.
We left the building. We called our agent and said, not only did we not get that job, we're never going to work at Warner Brothers ever. They're never going to hear another pitch from us again.
Yeah.
We've seen the trades like the next week. They hired that guy. He's off and running on the first season of Xiaolin Showdown. 3 months later, we got a call from the executive who brought us in. She's like, hey guys, you remember Xiaolin Showdown? We're like, yeah, we just threw those materials out the other day. Why? What's up? And she's like, the guy we hired quit and we need to get the show on in October. It's March now. Help.
And they're like, oh, so I see what happened. Your prom date dumped you. And we're like, no, it's good. It's good. We got it.
They say, well, it's thorough.
So we were so lucky. We were so lucky to be paired with Eric Radomski on that show. We sat down, we had lunch with him, and first thing he said to us was, you know, they bought a bag of wind, right? And we're like, yeah, there's really not much here. And over the course of that lunch, we banged out what the show would be. We went in after lunch to talk to the executives, and Eric started with, are we making a TV show or are we just messing around here? Because I don't have time for messing around. And they said, no, we're making a TV show. He said, okay, so this is what we're going to do. Bill and Bob, tell them what we're doing.
I love that.
Show.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I have
had a pitch in the UK, and
Cory,
I don't even
start us
remember
off.
the show. It was years ago.
There we go.
And we pitched this show, and the executive who was sitting in for his boss leaned back afterwards and templed his fingers and furrowed his brow. And he's sitting in front of literally a mural for all of the cartoons that Hanna-Barbera had ever done, and everything from the Cartoon Network universe. And he looks at it, he goes, you know, the thing is, the talking animals just don't really work. So I said, yeah, I know, because the Yogi Bear thing was really awful. My buddy there said, yeah, I know what you mean. And we just started naming them. And the thing was, we didn't even have to think of them. We could just look at the mural behind them. Immediately started going, but no, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, and we kept going until he called security and had us removed from the building. And my friend ran into him many years later at an industry party in the UK. And he went over to apologize to him because apparently it's kind of a well-known story in the industry over there. And he went up and he said, you know, excuse me, my name, and he said, I'm going to stop you there. I know exactly who you are. I know who your friend is. And you will never work for my network as long as and he was really still bent out about it. My buddy felt bad. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel bad about that at all.
No.
Was
you have nothing to
anybody
apologize
could
for.
say in a pitch, but yeah, that was absolutely the worst pitch I've ever had, was getting escorted out of the building by
Cory, easiest pitch?
Oh, mine? Worst or easiest?
Take your
Either one.
Well, I guess I'm here because of Hoodwinked, so I'll talk about Hoodwinked. Is that we laid out about 5 or 6 scripts in front of this investor, and he didn't like any of them. And he was like, this guy wanted to make an animated movie like Walt Disney and base it on like Cinderella. We're like, well, that one's been done. So he just kept naming them all, and so he basically said, we'll meet again in a month, and just give me something that's a fairy tale that kids already know. And so that was, we just wanted to pay our bills, and we just went home and just started like writing down every fairy tale we could think of. So when we came up with Red Riding Hood, and that it would be like kind of a Pulp Fiction Rashomon retelling of the day, we pitched it to him, and he was a little confused, but he had, artwork was really great with this particular guy, and yeah, that was that we in one afternoon, after 30 days of being really sweaty about it, he said, yeah, let's do it. And it was just, but it was more of a mandate. Like I didn't wake up one morning and go, if I could only make a movie about Red Riding Hood, like I have 100 other things I want to do, but this guy with this money said, do this. And so we came up with something in those parameters, kind of like the story that Bob and Bill are telling about. It's like almost like the job comes and finds you, and then says, deal with it. You're in this corner, deal with it. So Red Riding Hood, but we told it in a way that I wouldn't want to blow my brains out working for 3 years on a Red Riding Hood movie. I said, well, we came up with our way of doing it and said, well, this is a movie I would want to see. So it became easy to pitch because I was so excited to see the movie. So I guess that's why I would say, well, that was an easy pitch.
Okay, and which one of you is typing a pitch right now?
Somebody's typing right now.
Because I'm hearing it. I got a question from anybody else got a good pitch?
Movie. I have a fast pitch. Was when I was pitching to Michael Eisner Aladdin the series. It was one piece of art which showed Aladdin and Genie, and 3 words: Aladdin the series. And if I had given him any more information, I might have not have sold it.
Yeah, that was enough.
Yeah, that was all it needed.
There's a question for actually while Greg's
easy.
talking. I was going to ask real quick. There's a question from Wally Mudo 3225 had a question for Greg is, will the Spectacular Spider-Man join Disney Plus, and will they get a much needed 3rd season?
No.
I don't know the answer to the first question.
I know the answer.
I don't work with Disney. But, and the answer to the second question is almost definitely not. It's sort of a contractual catch-22. Sony owns the rights to the spectacular version of Spectacular Spider-Man, but Disney and Marvel have the animation rights to Spider-Man. So in order to get Spectacular, Marvel would have to pay Sony to use their own character, and I cannot ever see that happening.
About the adequate Spider-Man.
There you go, Wally.
And Greg, that's the exact same reason that we can't get Spectacular on Disney Plus right now, that they're having that fight over that.
There you go.
There's your answer.
It's not a fight, it's a discussion.
I'd love to clear it up for all the fans out there who send us tweets saying, why don't you guys make more of fill in the name of the show here?
Right.
Not entirely our
somehow I think people believe that one day we just decide to stop making them.
Yeah, they still think it's the problem with us that there's not more Kim Possible.
Why aren't you making
We're lazy.
You want to write back because I'm lazy. And
Well, to that end, Jesus did ask on Twitter, Dan and Swampy, if Phineas and Ferb had been a somebody answer their phone.
It sounds like chimes, wind chimes.
I think it's my wind chimes. I'm outside.
Dan and Swampy, if Phineas and Ferb had continued, would you have done a Star Wars crossover?
He did a Star Wars crossover.
Well, I think I saw this on Twitter earlier. I think the person was asking, would you have done Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes, we absolutely would have.
Oh, yeah.
We actually sort of had thoughts along that line when it became clear that they were not as behind the show as they used to be. So we it was sort of a mutual thing. We realized, they're not going to order a new season until they've aired the ones we already have, and we were a year and a half ahead.
Yeah.
So we actually said, if, they said, how about we just do some hour-long specials? They had like 5-hour-long specials they wanted us to do. And we said, well, if you're not going to pick up another season now, we don't want to wait and restaff. It'll get down to like me and Swampy and the editor, and then you'll want more shows. And we would have lost everybody. We would have lost Kim and Aliki and all that, like all these great board artists. So we said, let us finish it. Let us make one of these hour-long specials into the last day of summer. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, we've been doing this for 10 years. We're okay to end it. And then they went and had a bunch of meetings and told us we could do that as long as we didn't kill anybody or make it in a way that they couldn't do more Phineas product at some point.
So we wrote the bloodbath that we'd originally intended.
Yes. Yeah, we had to delete all of
the
that.
Tarantino version.
Yes, exactly. It was originally like the end of Reservoir Dogs.
I have a pitch story. So usually I prepare a ton. I do a ton of art, but cats, like I go all out. I'm usually spend a ton of money on these pitches. And this time I got called in by Netflix. This is for My End the 3. I was directing a movie for Warner Brothers. So you know how they say when you have, best time to get a job is when you have a job. So I went to this amazing dinner they had for creators and directors. And then they sat me down, and Melissa Cobb, they had tequila and they had lots of other libations. So I was pretty drunk by the time they sat me down. And they said, okay, Jorge, pitch us your dream show that you don't think can get made. And I said, I want to make Lord of the Rings with brown people. And everybody laughed. And I said, no, that is what I want to make. And then cut to the next day, I'm driving to work, and my reps call me, and they're like, yep, they want to make it. No preparation. No
that was the entire pitch?
That was the pitch. Lord of the Rings with brown people.
Excellent.
That's glorious.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
Just you wait, you guys.
Just you wait.
Hey, when is it? When's it
come out, Jorge?
Can we? I think they've announced it, right? Like later, end of the year, next year, 2021.
Yeah.
It's a 4.5-hour movie chopped up in 30-minute episode.
So end of the year 2021, about when the quarantine gets lifted.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
While we're on Jorge, I got a question from Maria on Twitter who asks, what would a crossover between El Tigre and Hellboy have looked like?
Well, I mean, we had the same actors, we had the same producer, and I snuck a bunch of Hellboy stuff in Book of Life. Found it, but yeah, I mean, I love Ron Perlman and I love Guillermo, and Mike Mignola is one of my biggest heroes artistically and as a creator. So I'm all over that stuff. He just posted drawings he's auctioning for charity on eBay. Any Mike Mignola fans, and he did one of Mexican wrestlers, and it was like he was trying to seduce me. It was incredible.
Okay, so there's a naked mole rat in Kim Possible. Hey, I've got my Phineas and Ferb music here too. So okay,
all right.
What is the creation any of you made that you were surprised it hit that big?
Well, I think Bob has to take the credit for Rufus. He saw at the Philadelphia Zoo those ugly little mutant creatures, and kids were fascinated with them, and the ugliness is really attracted kids. So I mean,
that was pretty late. It was pretty late in the Kim Possible development where they said add a pet, and we were like, well, what's the weirdest pet we can come up with? And naked mole rat was definitely it.
It's good to use the thing that nobody else has used.
Right.
The guys who wrote Shrek have a concept they talk about that's called mental real estate, meaning everybody knew the word ogre, but before Shrek, nobody had a specific ogre in mind.
Right.
And they felt like that's mental real estate all over the world that we can claim if we make a good movie about an ogre. And now if you say ogre to somebody, they immediately think of Shrek. And I remember they were giving a talk about this, and I leaned over to Swampy and said, we're going to own platypus because the show is about to come out. And for a whole generation of kids, we own platypus. When you say platypus to them, they think of this little teal guy with a hat.
Sad to find out that they're not teal.
Yes, exactly. It's like, and Swampy's mother was it Bear's mother?
Bear's mom
was surprised to find out that platypuses were real things. He thought we had made them up.
She's a lovely lady. She's this Dutch woman. I remember years after the show had been on the air and doing really well, there was some conversation and she turned and looked at me and she goes, "Those are real?" I thought you made it up.
Yes.
We actually developed a show with a character named Duck William Platypus, and we got the people don't
Duck
want
Bill.
Yeah, and that show actually got the people don't want talking animals. That's how that got.
Yeah.
So that
that was a common.
That note floats around in the.
Yeah, and actually that show.
Hartman and go ahead.
Oh, that show became for us what Penguins of Madagascar was. Right. When that came up, we were like, yeah, we want to do that because that was pretty much the show we had developed years ago.
I remember that pitch. That was a great pitch.
Yeah, it was, but it got killed because talking animals.
Oh wow! Yeah, Butch and I did a show about a platypus. Butch Hartman and I. It was called Splatipus, and it was glorious, but never saw the light of day. But it was hilarious. I mean,
you talk about things,
and we did those board pitches at Nickelodeon up on the wall, and it was so fun.
Things that click that you didn't realize. One of the things that I loved about the series is it's like if you go to Japan, they're selling little meat dolls.
He's in 2 episodes.
Yeah, he's in 2 episodes. Or how many people will talk about the giant floating baby head, or Klimpaloon, the magical old-timey bathing suit that lives in the Himalayas. And what I always enjoyed about that stuff,
3 episodes.
Almost all of those things were not things that Dan and I brought to the show, but were brought into the universe by the people working on the show. And I love it when the things that people love were stuff that our creative team brought to us. And all we really had to do is go, what are you in? Oh, actually, that might work. Try it. Okay, sure.
Thank you guys for always being open to your crew bringing in stuff. Like you guys were always very open about it.
Well, it's always fun to have other people playing in your sandbox and coming up with stuff that you weren't thinking of. A lot of the staples of the show, like Doofenshmirtz taking over the tri-state area. That was like a Sherm Cohen pitch. The giant floating baby head was Mike Dietrich. There's so much of the things, like the Doofenshmirtz's backstories, his tragic backstories were John Barry and Chris Hedrick. It's you open it up to have more brains in there, and you get stuff that surprises you and is really fun.
Oh, you guys, I'm gonna bring in just a quick little break to bring on our little donation thing. So obviously this is a free stream for everybody to enjoy. You guys are dropping down a lot of amazing stories. So I just want to take a quick little donation break to encourage everybody it's for a great cause. Once again, by any donations that you give, it goes towards getting medical professionals the PPE that they need. So I'm going to throw down our heavy duty now. Do it. Should I do it? All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to roll it. All right.
Your donations for ISOCON will provide personal protection equipment for our frontline first responders. A $5 or more donation helps send a protective shield and glasses directly to the people saving your grandmother's life. Don't be a cheap ass. Donate now.
Show them the masks.
All right.
Show them the masks.
I will. I'm going to show the mask. All right, so I'm just going to say it so everybody out there that's watching. So for every $5 that they donate, basically Bluestone Sun Shields will actually put together a package that goes out to people requesting them, medical professionals, and they get the clear sun shield and the goggles. Obviously, we don't have masks, but they should have them hopefully by now. So these are going out for every $5 that's raised. These go directly to the medical professionals. So thank you guys for participating in this.
Cool.
And thank you guys, everybody whose donation. We got a huge donation. We had a huge donation earlier today from Rosenda Villa Strigo, $200 donation. That was really, really generous. Donations from Eric and Jam Studios, and they just keep coming in. We have donations for $10 from, I can't even, RF Dunnefield.
RF.
RF. And Jen Henry voiceover sent over a $50 donation. So every little bit helps. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to go back to you guys and let you keep chatting a little bit.
Well, what you want to talk about now?
Well,
talk about it.
Everybody's been asking for Swampy and Dan to do Monogram and Doofenshmirtz, but Dan already riffed a little bit into it.
What do you want me to say? See, if I do Doofenshmirtz, I have to turn the volume down, or it will blow out the speakers.
You have to be careful if you listen to him speak. He may propose that you do something evil, and if there are children listening, it's important that you don't do anything.
I think that children should consider evil as a vocation. It's a wide open field. Most people are going into good, but there's a lot of career opportunities, is what I'm saying.
And this is why we can't have anything nice.
Yay.
Okay, these two obviously have a grand time doing that. Do the rest of you chime in and have a good time at all voicing other characters?
Sorry, Harry, I was throwing the cheers on.
Has anyone else done voices? Jorge, have you ever done
I love it. I mean, I've now been typecast. I've gotten to do, Mexican wrestlers, dead Mexican wrestlers, bullfighters, dead bullfighters, fat Mexicans, dead fat Mexicans. My range is pretty small, but I got it. So
nobody's bugging you to do Judi Dench impressions.
Cornered the market on the.
Yeah.
One day we should hire you to do a skinny living Mexican.
We lost Greg about 15 minutes ago.
Yes, we did. We tried to get a hold of him. I don't know what happened.
He's not replying to texts. I think he went into a Young Justice vacuum there somewhere.
Okay. But I do think all showrunners, we do so much scratch, and that's how you get good. So if you're doing scratch for years, you should just write yourself a character.
Yeah. Somebody asked me once how to get into voice acting, and I said, the best way to get into voice acting is to sell a show and then hire yourself. That's
there. You guys heard it. Everybody on the internet, you heard it.
Voice acting.
Dan said it right there.
We had a situation the other day where we needed the dad character to have a sigh, and we're like, I know we've got dad sighing 15 times. Just find a sigh from another episode, put it in there. So our editor went and did that, and we were looking at it later in the day, and it was like, okay, you pulled Bill scratching dad sign. We need the actual actor who played dad.
It was really great though.
It was a good sign.
It was like this. It was like. So, there you go.
That's good.
The market on that.
Very real.
I just heard that, and now I'm going to write a part just for Bill.
A sign. A weary sigh.
Sorry, there's a market on size.
I mean, you guys. You guys are all at pretty much at the top of your games, and what is a fantasy? It is. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of people who envy you guys immensely, and what do you guys feel is a dream job now, or is it just this is the dream job?
I think this is the dream because this is what I would be doing if I was unemployed. If I was unemployed, I'd be sitting around and writing stupid songs and telling stupid stories and talking in silly voices and drawing stupid pictures, and they're paying me to do that. Amazing. So to me, that's the dream job is to do whatever you would do for free, and have people pay you.
Ages ago at Disney, they'd shove your check under your door. It would just show up Thursday afternoon on the floor. And we had a running joke of going, they fell for it again.
Yes, exactly.
If
I wasn't doing this, the only other jobs I'd want are as professional race driver or professional surfer, and I'm not really qualified for either one of those. So I'm going to stick with this because I seem to be able to do this fairly easily, and I've reached a point in my career where most of the time people will trust you to do it.
Yeah.
Most of the time they will stay out of your way and let you make the decisions based on your experience.
Yeah.
It's not 100%, but by gum, when you compare it to when I started.
Yes.
I find people in our industry, though, we have like the kindest, amazing group of people too. It's like the coolness of working in entertainment industry without all the assholery. You know what I mean? Like it's like it seems like a pretty nice group of people.
That's always the advice.
My first career was in live action and sitcoms, and when I came over to Disney to start working on cartoons, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. Everybody's so nice, and I don't have to stand against the wall or watch my back, and then I write something, and then these incredible artists like apply their genius to making it come alive. It was a totally different vibe, and I've never gone back. I tried, but it's just a wonderful way to make a living. It's preposterous.
That brings up a really good point, though. For years, I'd drive home from Disney until I got involved with the Make-A-Wish kids. That I'd drive home and go, God, I didn't cure cancer. What did I contribute to society? Do you guys get those great stories from your fans telling you? I mean, can you give me an example of the impact you've had?
Yeah, there was a girl that wrote me a letter when I was on Family Guy, saying that I had saved her life because of an episode that I had done is what got her out of agoraphobia, and like she'd been sort of descending into this depression, and she hadn't laughed or smiled in years, and she had tried to kill herself, and friends were with her on suicide watch, and she was watching a show with them. They were like, hey, we're going to watch this. And she's like, I don't want to see cartoons. No, you're going to like this. And it was an episode that I had directed of Family Guy. And she said she laughed for the first time ever, in like 3 years. And it made her feel human again. It made her feel, like part of the world. And she started living every day to watch Family Guy on Adult Swim every night. Wow. And then you hear, we'd hear those stories when we stopped doing Phineas. We got so many people on Twitter saying, somebody said that you saved my life. You said you got me through PTSD. You got me through my child's chemotherapy, and things like that. And
that was the one that got me. We the first time we saw a Phineas tattoo, and the picture came up, and the first thing that my reaction was, "Oh man, who's putting a Phineas tattoo on there? What?" And then you read the text. And it was a mom whose kid was going through chemotherapy.
And that's what they watched every day.
The moment every day where they got to laugh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're like, okay, what we do matters to a lot of people out there. And it seems silly and frivolous, but there are folks that just need to laugh or need to sing or need to identify with some of these characters. And the fact that we get to play and have fun and be silly, and that has that kind of impact on people. We have folks who say, their autistic child on the spectrum, the first time they ever sang was to a Phineas and Ferb song. And that's just such a huge privilege to get to do this and have a deliriously large amount of fun doing it is just awesome.
Wow, awesome, guys. That's
a closing statement if ever I heard.
That is really fantastic.
Bravo.
All proud to save lives.
I honestly want to thank all of you guys for joining us for this very informative and great time of telling your stories and sharing. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
And for what you're giving back to the community at this
Hear, hear.
rather trying time in our history.
It's everybody. We all just do what we can do, right? Thank you guys.
Oh, here's the background button.
All right.
This whole time.
Beautifully played, Mark. Beautifully played.
He was waiting on that.
Yeah, the long game.
All right, guys. Thank you. We'll tell everybody to tune in tomorrow. We have
the next one.
Tune in tomorrow, guys. We have a lot more panels. Thank you guys for joining us. We have 3 more panels tomorrow. We have the Cartoon Voices panel, the Talent Agent panel, the Casting Director panel, and we also have our Mystery panel. So spread the word, tell everybody it's for a great cause, and you guys have a good one. I'll let Sylvia take us out.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for joining us for ISOCON 2020. Let's look forward to hugging your friends and kissing your loved ones. It's been fun. I'm Sylvia Villagran, wishing you a safe and healthy quarantine.